TBTL.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Hey Dummies. My name is Andrew and I will be your dummy today. I was hoping to record this video outdoors where it is beautiful. It is sunny and summer outside my basement window here, but alas, I am in the basement in my slightly airless studio right now, sweltering in front of this computer as we test out some new audio video equipment. So that's just why I'm joining you from my dungeon-like surroundings right now. Hopefully you can hear me okay, and hopefully you can see me okay, but hopefully you can't see me too okay. I mean, sometimes a not so great camera can kind of cover up the blemishes, if you know what I'm talking about. But we do have a question to get to today. But before we get to the question, I did want to encourage everybody to send in your questions. We're kind of getting near the end of the list of questions that listeners have sent in for us to answer. So you can email me, andrew@tbtl.net, to submit your questions. We'll answer anything: philosophical questions, icebreaker style questions, maybe questions about the podcast itself or how we do the show, questions about our lives, our loves, our disasters, whatever. Email me, andrew@tbtl.net. That's andrew@tbtl.net, and put Hey Dummies in the subject line. We could really use some more questions like this one that comes from listener Liz, who says, and by the way, spoiler alert here, I'm not really going to answer this question, not because I don't want to, but because it leads me to a different anecdote. But here's the question as Liz asked it. Was there ever a time where you felt like you overshared and wished you could take it back? A somewhat related question is, have you ever felt like you took self-deprecating humor too far? I am a New Yorker living in California, and for a long time now, I feel like I'm too open and direct for a lot of the people out here, and so that's where my questions stem from. That's from listener Liz. Well, Liz, here's the deal. I'm a very confident person. I walk through the world with confidence. When I open my mouth, I know exactly what I'm going to say. See, I can't... that spoof blew up in my face. No, I've never been confident a day in my life or even a minute in my life. I lack any of those confidence genes. Having said that, I'm sure there are times where I have overshared or maybe been too vulnerable, and then regretted it. I just can't think of any good stories about that right now. I can't think of any specific examples, but I'm sure I have, because I am a very oversharey kind of person. But what your question reminded me of, if I can spin a little tale here from my real life, is a time I really regretted a joke. And I was thinking about this before I hit record, and I honestly think that, like, if I had not been able to smooth over this joke, I honestly think it could have changed the trajectory of my life. I'm just so proud I was able to pronounce trajectory without stumbling on it. That right there is a huge accomplishment for me, guys. I should just end the video there. But as you may or may not know, I have worked most of my professional life in public radio. Public radio is really important to me. And especially as a young professional breaking into the industry, public radio wasn't just a job for me or a career, but it was my community, right? It was where I met a lot of my closest friends, even to this day, at various public radio stations that I've worked at over the years. But growing up, I didn't know what public radio was. I didn't learn about public radio until I was in college. And I went to a school, Kent State University. You probably have heard of that, but I don't know if a lot of people realize that Kent State, even though it's not like a major market, it's outside of Cleveland, but Kent itself, not a major market, but it has a really good public radio station there called WKSU. And at the time I was going to college, it was both classical and news, NPR News, and they had a good local newsroom. And just to be very clear, this isn't like a college radio station. There was like a small college radio station. This was a professional radio station run by professional journalists and radio professionals, many of whom have actually gone on to do great things at the network level at National Public Radio. It was a great opportunity for me when a friend of mine said, hey, I work at the public radio station as a student employee. He had said, hey, I'm working here now, and I'll tell the boss that you might be a good candidate. And again, I had no radio experience at this point. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I liked kind of turning buttons and knobs and playing with VCRs and stuff. I didn't know exactly how far that would get me. And then I started listening to public radio after my friend introduced it to me, and I realized, oh, it's this wide range of various kinds of programs programming and it's not just straightforward. When I thought of radio, I just thought it was like, I don't know, you listen to some mainstream music and then somebody comes in and cracks some jokes, some commercials, more music. And public radio immediately was very special to me. And so once I realized this, I really wanted to land this job. This would be my first job in radio, and it was something that I was just falling in love with and felt passionately about. So my friend Schwa introduces me to his boss, a guy named Joe, who is a radio veteran of several decades at this point. And I don't know if I had a formal interview with him right away or not, but I definitely got a foot in the door. And he said, we don't have any openings right now, but, Brian highly recommends you, so we will stay in touch and hopefully something will open up. They usually do. And we'll try to get you some shifts or something. And he said, just stay in touch with me. This is before cell phones and everything. So the way I stayed in touch was every few weeks, every couple of weeks, maybe I would call the radio station and ask to talk to Joe and just be like, hey, checking in, anything, anything new. And I can't remember how many times I did that. Let's say I did it once or twice, and then I don't know if I got through or not. But then one day, I believe I heard that Joe asked me to call him or something like that. I believe that something had opened up. So I called the radio station and I asked to talk to Joe. Now, I'm leaving out a critical point here. When I met Joe the first time, I could tell that he was a quick with a joke. He was a bit of a joker, a bit of a josher, a bit of a japer, if you will. I am kind of similar. So I sort of felt like me and this guy who was like, again, like I'm a college student. He's a grown-ass adult, probably in his 40s, maybe late 40s at this point. So there's an age and experience discrepancy there, obviously. But I remember getting along well, and we were both joking around or whatever. So now, cut to a few months later, I've been waiting for something to open up. I call the station. I understand there might be an opportunity for me there. I call the front desk. I say, can I talk to Joe Gunderman, please? And they said yes, and they put me on hold. Now, like a lot of places, when they put me on hold, I heard music playing, hold music. Only it wasn't random hold music. It was the music of the radio station I was calling. It was classical music. Have I mentioned that? The station then was classical music and NPR News. And I'm waiting on hold for a little bit, and I'm listening to Dvorak or whatever it is. And eventually Joe picks up the line. And I don't know how... First of all, I don't know why I thought this would be funny, and I don't know how I wedged it in. But whenever you're trying to wedge a joke in, it's probably a good time to think maybe I shouldn't tell this joke. Wedged in jokes usually don't work. I'm not an expert on joke telling, but I am an expert on bad jokes because I have some experience in that realm. So anyway, Joe picks up the line, and I said to him in a dry, sarcastic way, "What is that crap you have on your hold music?" And of course, I was talking about the programming of the radio station that I, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, was applying to work at. A well-regarded, professional-ass public radio station. I'm finally getting the call back. I'm calling into Joe, and I decide to open up with a joke of, what's that crap you... And I believe the word was crap, because I wasn't allowed to say the word crap growing up. Like, that's still a pretty coarse word to me. And that, I don't know if I thought of that while I was on hold. I don't know if it popped in my head as soon as Joe picked up the line. I don't know why I felt like I could be that familiar with him. But my friends, the length of time it took Joe to process that and then respond felt like several lifetimes, like several biblical lifetimes. I don't know exactly what he said. I think I eventually just said, "I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I was being sarcastic." And he was like, "Oh, okay." But you could tell he didn't think it was funny. First of all, it wasn't funny, and he wasn't amused by it. Somehow we smoothed it over. I felt super embarrassed about that. We moved on to the business at hand. And then eventually I end up getting a job at that radio station in the news department. And then eventually, me and Joe became friends. I became friends with a lot of the employees there. And it was literally a life-changing experience for me. If I had not gotten into public radio in college, I don't know that my career path would have led me to where I am today, which is a place that I'm very happy with. And my career I've been happy with, although it's taken on various forms. It's been very, gratifying. And when I think about just some dumbass joke, you want to talk about self-owning. Nobody asked me to respond to anything. I just volunteered this crass, insulting joke to the head of the programming department of a radio station that I wanted to work at. And that is one joke, Liz, to not answer your question that I really, really regretted telling. So anyway, I got my job. Take that, Joe. Just kidding. Joe's been very good to me. All right, everybody, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Please, is that a Dennis Leary line? No, is that a Dennis Miller line? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. What am I doing here? What I'm doing is I'm asking you, I'm a man asking you to send me more questions for future Hey Dummies videos. Email me, andrew@tbtl.net. I will answer them as they come in, or not answer them, as the case may be. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.